you doing? Okay, welcome back to what is essentially now chapter 8B, because I am splitting up all of the deployment content that the tutorials are explaining in the Getting Started series on the Solar2D website. So if you are new to this channel, thank you very much for visiting. Please be sweet and click that subscribe button to my channel, and we are going to just kind of recap and basically get into what a live build is all about. So if we look at my left hand side monitor here, I've got the game open. Got no particular files open, but you can see here that the console has obviously started. And if I look for the actual documentation we have got going on here, we've got our Corona live build. So just to give us a recap, we've done the icons, obviously making it yourself, making it your own kind of game. We've just parrot fashion copied what they've taught us so far. So obviously if you was going to deploy this genuinely to one of the app stores, then you'd need to do some elements of tweaking and things. Now I'm going to still follow this process, but if it actually gets to the app store or not, I'm not really that fast. This to me is just a practice to be able to demonstrate and create these videos for you. So whether it actually becomes an app I publish or not is another story. But today we are actually going to be focusing on the Corona live builds. Now obviously Corona is the name of the software in its early days. It's now called Solar2D, so they should really have updated this title. But essentially what they basically is telling us here is that live builds is a great way of testing your game. Okay, now this is something that I am quite passionate about, and so one of the things that I want you guys to sort of get into your head while you're here, it's one thing to be sat at your computer in the developer frame of mind, thinking about how the buttons are reacting, is the response the way that it should be, is the code working, is there any bug fixes. When you're in developer head, even though you're trying to sometimes look at things objectively as a user, end user or a tester, you still can't get out of your own headspace at times. So for me personally, I'm going to show you how to do a live build using a Kindle, because it's, to me, was the easiest way. If you don't have a Kindle, there are other versions which we'll touch on in a minute. But for me, when I actually genuinely want to test something, the best way to test it is when I'm really tired, because my mind doesn't want to work. And if I can function my way through and use something when I'm tired, then to me that is a good state to say that it's user friendly. And the way that I do that is that I will get the game, I will live build test it onto my device. Obviously I've turned off my computer, it's late at night, and instead of sitting there maybe on my phone surfing TikTok or something, or YouTube or whatever for half an hour before I go to bed, I'll actually open up the version of the game that I've installed on my Kindle during the live build situation that we're going to go through, and then I'll play the game like any other Joe Blogs on the planet might do if they'd have downloaded it from the App Store. And then to me, because I'm tired and I'm lying in bed, I'm not at my computer, I'm in user headspace, then I get to use the game just as a member of the public would be. And I think to me, that mindset shift between developer and user is quite powerful. And even if you think you're doing it, sometimes you're not. And that to me is something that you really need to take note of. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking now and let's go back to our screen and have a look at this. Now, they actually go into how to build the live builds quite detailed here. Okay. So essentially, you are going to create like a server that uses your Wi-Fi connection to update the app that you install on your device in real time. Obviously, if you then turn the computer off and that server is closed down, the device will still have the app on here. Obviously, the updates won't come through, at which point next time you fire up your computer, you might need to do the live build connection again and create that server, at which point you can sometimes get yourself in a bit of a muddle, and I'm going to show you that as well later on. So quickly, just you guys read this in your own time. All I'm going to say is they do explain that you can run live builds in all of the different device environments. Personally speaking, the Kindle route is the quickest and easiest that I personally discovered, and ever since doing that I just kind of stick with this for the moment. I actually find that this simulator is like 99.9% perfect. So what you really do see on here is, you know, what is going to happen in like a proper Apple device or whatever sort of simulator you've got going on at the moment. So for me, really, this live build is the step that I do like the evening before or a couple of days before I actually start attempting to deploy to the stores. Okay, so in essence, what we are going to do, I'll leave you guys to read all through this because it can be quite intense, but I'm just going to walk you through it and I'm just going to explain it. So what we are going to do is we are going to make a build version as if we were going to deploy. It's going to be in a debug testing mode, okay? But it's going to generate what's called an APK file. Now that is the file type that the Android environment likes to receive. So when you go to Google Play or to the Amazon Kindle store and you download an app, what you're actually receiving onto your device is a .apk file. And all we're going to do using Dropbox, because my account is signed on my computer as well as signed on here as a sort of a bridge between getting that build file, that APK file from my computer onto the device, is I'm going to get a copy of it from Dropbox. I'm going to download it onto the device memory. So then instead of sitting in the cloud with Dropbox, it's going to be on the device memory. And once it's on the device memory, I can not uninstall it, but I'll basically unzip it, as it were, or install it on the device. And once it's installed on the device, I can run it like any other app I would have downloaded from the store, but it will be live connected to my Corona computer environment through that live server. So that's like the theory, and this theory is the same principle between all of the other platforms. It's just that they have more convoluted ways of getting the whole process set up. So Kindle to me is the quickest and easiest way to do it. So if you're planning on doing lots and lots of development and you don't have a Kindle, go and see if you can pick up a second-hand one. I don't know what generation this is, but it's been in my house for probably about 10 years, and it still works. It still does the job quite nicely. So they're quite cheap these days. Okay, so left-hand side monitor, let's get rid of this. Let's crack straight on. So we're going to go into File and Build, okay? And we are going to click on the Android because we are in an Android environment using a Kindle. Now, as you can see here, the game itself is now suspended in the simulator. What we've got going on here, we have the file name that it's taken from the actual application. Obviously, it's the first time we're doing it, so by default, it always gives us a version code and version name of 1. Obviously, you need to keep track of those for yourself in the future if you're going to do lots of different releases and testing. Now, your package has to be a unique reference name, and the easiest way to make it unique is to use your company or your business's or your website's URL in reverse, which is what ZetaDesignStudios.com is. So that bit there, oh, I can't highlight it. There we go. That's my business's URL in reverse, and then all I've put is a dot and then the name of the app. Now, that's quite a common process, whether we were doing a live build or a real build, regardless of the store. That is something that you would need to remember, and what you write here will be needed when you do an actual proper build and deploy to the stores, because all the stores do actually ask you for the package name, okay? So just all I would say is probably take a screenshot of this if you was doing a real build, but for now just get used to sort of making a unique package name by basically naming everything in the reverse order. The project path, this is where the actual game folder lives at the moment on my computer. As you can see there, it's the Corona Projects folder, and if we go up here to Corona Projects, that's basically the folder that we are looking at, so it already is in the correct location, which is good. Obviously, which store, now I'm working on a PC, so obviously there is no Apple products showing here, so it's saying where do I want to send, you know, which is the target store that I'm going to work with. So Amazon, because my Kindle is an Amazon product, as you can probably just see in the corner there. Now my key store, because I'm doing a live build, this last part here has to be debug.keystore. Now, if this is the very first time that you guys are doing this, it's more than likely going to have defaulted. And what is really quite handy is if I have like a journal that I use to document like anything. So I've got GitHub notes in here, which we haven't even talked about. I've got like Lua coding notes. It's just, to me, this is like kind of like, it's like my brain. Okay, when I feel like I'm at max, or there's something that I know I'm going to need to use again in the future, but it's probably going to be a couple of months or something like that, I'll just make a note of it in here, because then this is my little trusted go-to to be able to remember this. So it might be worth actually finding the path to where your debug.keystore is located. Okay, so and just sort of writing that down in your journal or whatever your notes mechanism system process is, because you will need to use this when you do future live builds. Okay, so just make sure the debug.keystore file is actually what is selected where it says keystore here. The alias, it does this automatically, so you don't need to touch that. And then finally, where are we actually saving that .apk file to? As I've just explained, I want to save it in my Dropbox because I'm signed on to Dropbox on my Kindle. So we have now a bridge between the Kindle and my computer using Dropbox. So I'm just going to click my live build folder, and obviously, as you can see, it's already checked my live build, and obviously if this is a real build we would uncheck that. So I'm just going to click on build now, and what's going to happen is you can see obviously it's doing something, shall we say, and it's basically bundling up and sort of processing all of these different files that we've got going on here, the icons, the images, and it's kind of bundling it all into one file, okay, which is that one singular APK file. Over on the left hand side you can see that there is a warning that's purely just popping up to say that as the file itself has had to be self-signed. When we get into the videos that explain the proper build process, we have to, it's kind of like an encryption process to keep the security and the integrity of the file intact, and it's a way of sort of saying to the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, you know, that this is a safe file that's been, you know, integrally built together. So it's kind of like a security process, but because we're only doing this in our home environment using our Wi-Fi and our live server, it's just done a self-sign, and obviously that's not generally what's wanted for a proper build, so that's why it's given us that warning. So you can pretty much just ignore what's going on there. As you can see here now, it's saying that it was successfully built, so I'm going to click on done. Okay, that suspended has disappeared, and now we've got this box that's appeared called a Corona live server, and I'm just going to sort of expand that so you can see the full path. There we go. Basically it is saying that this project, My Explorer, which is obviously our path file 9, is now being connected via my Wi-Fi to the app, which we haven't yet installed, but essentially it will be able to talk live to the app. So if we was to do, which we will do in a minute, some updates here on our computer, instantaneously the app will pick up those updates. So now that we've got that here, let's go and have a look at our Dropbox. So I am just going to go find Dropbox, and there is our folder, and there you can see that it's actually generated two files, the AAB file and the APK. So we won't need to worry about that for the live build. So the APK file there is the one that we're going to need to go and grab in just a second on my Kindle. So I'm just going to switch screens. Okay, so here we are on my device. I know it's not the clearest, but I'm trying my best to make it easy for you guys to follow. So I've got my Dropbox, okay, and that's just opening up. And then as you can see there, I've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, and there's my live build folder. And when that opens up, let's see if I can twist. You can see, I don't know if you can see very clearly, but there are two sets of dots on the right hand side. So next to my APK file, what I want to do is click on the three dots, and that's going to open up another menu. And at the very bottom here, I'm just going to turn it. You can see the word export. Okay, and then when I've got the export open, if I can get it to show you, there we go, we can save to device. So I'm going to save to device, and then what it's going to do is going to ask me the file name. I'm going to click on save. Okay, and then basically our bit with Dropbox is done. So I'm just going to close Dropbox now. Okay, and then I'm going to come back to my main screen, and now I'm going into my documents. Now I've done this a lot, so it's actually defaulted to my local storage, but you just need to double check that you're on your local storage. Obviously I'm in the download section because I've just downloaded a file. I don't want to delete it, sorry, I'm just going to click on it and it's going to ask me now what do I want to do with it. And if you look at the very bottom there is now an option to install. So that's going to take a few seconds to install. Okay, and then once, there you go, it says app installed, and now I can open it. So it's going to take a second. Now, on the next video that I do, that Solar2D, I'm going to talk to you about how to remove that. It's going to flash about a bit because don't forget it's got to connect to the live server and things as well. But the app is now going to run on the device, okay? So this is that moment where I can go and test it lying in bed later on this evening. So now, regardless of whether the live build exists or not, this app now will run whether the computer's turned on, the live build is live or disconnected. That app now exists independently on here. Whilst the live build is running, it is connected to my computer environment. So if I quickly go back over to my left hand screen, you can see here there's a couple of things that have happened. First of all, over in the left hand side, we've got Corona Live Build. Now for me, it's gone green because I'm also connected to GitHub, and that's why it's just giving me like a little M for modification thing. So you don't need to worry about whether yours is green or white or whatever. But essentially that here is the live build process in place, and that's basically what it looks like, and it explains that on the actual Solar2D notes. And you should have somewhere floating around on your computer a little box like this that will actually say Corona Live Server. So this right now is connected to Corona at this end of the bridge. This is going through my Wi-Fi, my device is connected to my Wi-Fi, and now as I do updates on here, it's going to do updates on here as well. So I'm going to try and do, you're going to have to kind of look at the little corner at the same time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of there for a second, and I thought the best way to try and explain this is, let's say I wanted to comment out the sound effects for a minute. So I'm just going to hit comment, okay? Now, if you kind of keep an eye at the same time, I'm going to try not to move my arm, but as you can see on the top here right now, there is no save. It's got a white dot. So I'm going to hit Control Save on my keyboard. And if this works properly, the device is updating. You can see it in the corner at the same time. So this is now live connected. And if we go to my actual device right now, and I start to play it, okay, and I hit when the asteroids come in, because I've just muted, there is no sound effects. So let's just go and see that in real time. So I'm just going to close that down for a second. Let me just close it and go back. And I don't know where we go. I'm just going to open it back up. So right, we've got it back open. So now let's go back into our game, and I'm going to undo my comments, and then I'm going to save. So let's just try and watch this at the same time. So save. Again, the device is restarting. Back to the play screen, and now let's see if we can. I hit play. Music. And now the fire is working. So that is basically how we do a live build. Let me just turn that off now so I can talk. So that is our live build process. Now there's one more thing that I need to show you. If we go back over here, as you can see, we've got this live build. Now, if at any time, let's say you're busy working, it's the start of the day, but by the end of the day, you've done a build after a build after a build, live build, and maybe your computer's gone into standby, you've gone out to lunch, you come back, or maybe you've shut down the computer and you've come back to your desk the following day, and for whatever reason, that live build file will still exist, but you might find that it's corrupted, and you go to do a live build and it's updating on your screen, but it's not updating on the device. That's because the connection has somehow broken or been deleted or whatever. If that happens, and then you go to do another live build and then it comes back with an error, all you have to do to get yourself back to a clean slate is click on that file and delete it, and it's job done. And then once you've got no live build, even if that little window, where's my little window gone, even if that little window still exists, you can just close it down. Okay, so my live build now connection to my device has been terminated. It doesn't exist. With nothing at all existing, I'm free to go through that live build process again. So that's how to handle it if there's an error. Okay, so I hope you followed that. It was kind of complicated, I get it. But as I said, out of all of the ways to do a live build, for me personally speaking, doing it on a Kindle is by far the easiest. And like I said, if this is something you're very serious about, I would just suggest you go and get yourself a cheap Kindle. Make sure it's quite an up-to-date one, because we did have, when I very first started doing this about 5-6 years ago, I had another Kindle for my other daughter that was a lot older and it just wouldn't work at all. But like I said, I think we're probably looking at, I don't even know what version this, I don't even use the Kindle, so I don't even know where to find the version number, but this is a good 10-year-old and it still does the job. So just get yourself a second-hand Kindle if money's a bit tight, or get the best that you can and just use that as your test device. So that's it for today. Again, thank you very much for watching. I did do another video on this on my YouTube channel about 2-3 years ago, so I'll go and find that, because maybe sometimes I'll say things in a different way and it might help you. But otherwise, I will see you on the next video, which is going to be 8C, and that's when we are going to tidy up the whole entire file and process and our environment ready to deploy. So see you soon.